when it comes to Craig Breslow, like I said, not really a whole lot different from him. Not really a whole lot different when it comes to, what he's been saying to the media. A lot of people out there, using the word salad thing, but again, you got to remember when it comes to Craig Breslow, yes, he can definitely say a lot without saying all that much, but that's a lot of general managers out there, man. And yeah, it's a little frustrating because you're still waiting for the Red Sox to add that right-handed bat to the lineup, maybe sign a reliever for the back end of the bullpen as well. Yes, I agree. You do want to see the Red Sox spend some money. But you have to remember, too, these GMs, president of baseball operations, they're going to say a whole lot of nothing most of the time. And that's why you got to pay attention to, try and look for some of the little words that they use, right? That's where you get your juicy little hints. But Breslow, for the most part, he can't really say all that much lately when it comes to, any pursuit of free agents, trades, whatever it may be. You can't do it because at the end of the day, that's privacy, right? You got to respect the player as well. And also you don't want to lose any sort of leverage or, anything like that. It's best just not to say anything when it comes to free agent pursuits and trades. Yeah, you can't really, right? Because those guys are on other teams. So, but everyone knows, there's no secret. It's Bregman, it's Arenado. And when it comes to possible right-handed bats. Now, when it comes to some of the Breslow comments, he touched on a number of things today, right? Talked about some of the prospects coming up, talked about the bullpen, did talk about the right-handed bat, and what I actually found pretty interesting was the bullpen comments. We'll dive into that in just a little bit, but everyone wants to know what's going on with any remaining additions for the team. Now, he went on to say here, and again, pretty much what he has said to the media as of late. Right now, we're still pursuing a right-handed bat. We're hopeful that we'll be able to accomplish that. Obviously, we haven't lined up on anything yet, but we'll continue to be as aggressive as we can. He also touched, let's get to the bullpen comments here. He said, we have a number of guys who have pitched at the back end of games. Hendricks and Chapman, of course. Slayton is a guy that I think deserves some consideration. Whitlock is someone who I think can be deployed as a real weapon in his ability to throw multiple innings. And we also had Alex Cora touching on some things as well. Pretty much the same subject matters, right? Both with the bats, or adding a right-handed bat and the bullpen as well. He said here, when it comes to any remaining additions, I think we have done a good job presenting our program and taking a step forward. After that, it takes two to tango, right? We'll see what happens in the upcoming days and the upcoming weeks. I think we've been very aggressive in certain situations. I won't be surprised if we add something else. Now, I think that says a lot right there. That last line saying, I won't be surprised if we add something else. That's a different tune that, what we were hearing last spring. So, and we'll dive into Arenado Bregman, but I do think, I'll just say right now, I think one of those guys are going to be coming aboard. I don't know who, but I'm also pretty confident that with all this talk of adding a right-handed bat from Breslow, from Cora, all these people out there, I mean, at some point, you just think it has to happen, right? They keep mentioning it. I think it happens at some point. Now, when it comes to some of the prospects, right? They talked about that, touching on that here. Alex Cora really said the same thing to me. And honestly, I'm talking about how, Cora Breslow, or especially Cora, talking to the media today, a lot of the things that he said today, he said to me in the interview that we did a little while back. So not really a whole lot different. But, I thought it was funny that he said this about guys like Roman Anthony and Christian Campbell, because I feel like he said the same exact line to me. When asked about, some of the young guys coming up and contributing, he said, like I told them last year, there's no age limit to make the big leagues. And Alex Cora's theme for this coming year, this year is about working and getting better. If we do that over 162 games, things will take care of themselves, and we'll be dancing in October. So, I would say pretty modest comments today. Nothing crazy, nothing juicy by any means. I think the biggest one from Cora was that he wouldn't be surprised about adding another player. And he also did make some comments. I'll actually maybe take that a step back a little bit. He did mention Rafi Devers at one point. And I actually think this was pretty interesting. This is going to tie in to Nolan Arenado a little bit. He did mention that Rafi is the third baseman right now. He said he's been talking with him pretty much all off season, right? He's been getting himself into some good shape this off season. One of the big things that they want out of him this year is really just to stay healthy. Which, yeah, obviously you want that bat for the entire season. You don't want that guy going down. But I do think the comment that he made about Rafi playing third base or being the third baseman right now, I think those two words were very big. So, I don't know. That said a lot to me. I think that really, when you tie that into what he said about, he wouldn't be surprised if they add someone else, kind of makes me think there could be some traction heading towards that way. And honestly, he said he's been talking with Rafi as well. I mean, I don't confirm this by any means. I'm just speculating, really. I honestly think Cora has had some kind of a conversation with Rafi at some point. Because you got to think here, right? Rafi is a human being at the end of the day. It's not like he's not going on Instagram, Twitter. I mean, come on. Rafi has clearly seen the rumors about someone like Nolan Arenado coming to the Red Sox. It's very clear. I would think he has seen these rumors at some point. So you got to think, Cora's probably talked with him. I don't know. Who knows? Maybe he hasn't, but I would imagine there has been at least some kind of a conversation. If I were to take a guess, right? If they're still pursuing Arenado here, right? And we'll dive more into this in just a second. But you would imagine if Rafi were to give up third base for anyone out there, it's probably Nolan Arenado, a possible future Hall of Fame third baseman, one of the best defensive third basemen of all time. I mean, if you're giving up third base, that's who you give it up for right there. All right. So I would imagine, I don't know. I can't confirm it, but I would think there has at least been some kind of talk as of late between those two regarding third base. But again, the two key words that he said, he's the third baseman right now. So we'll see. Now, let's dive in here. Let's talk about Alex Bregman. Here. Jeff Passan came out with an article today. He gave us some golden little tidbits. And, he kind of touched on all the teams. I'll touch on all the teams here as well. Now, he started off with the Red Sox, right? Saying Alex Bregman has backers. Red Sox manager Alex Cora wants Bregman badly. And the Red Sox guaranteeing only $52 million to free agents this winter has done little to reinvigorate a fan base still smarting from half a decade of relative penny pinching. Now, yeah, no surprise, right? No surprise. I mean, this is nothing new. I feel like we've been banging this drum for, it feels like 8 months, 8 years even at this point. That's how long it feels. There's no need to really go into the fit of Bregman. Most likely he slides into second base because he has that versatility. I've seen some people out there talk about how Arenado could even be, a second baseman. No. I'm gonna put that to bed right now because I'm already starting to see some people out there. Like I've seen a couple of tweets. I've seen other people talk about it. Absolutely not. Arenado will not be a second baseman. I'm going to say that right now. Absolutely not. Just putting that to bed early here. But Alex Bregman, yeah, second base. And yeah, he would be perfect. I've talked about it. There's no need to say anymore, right? Good at Fenway Park. Bat fits well there. Say what you will. Maybe the bat's regressing a little bit. But Fenway Park, he'd be perfect. I will touch on this with Bregman. I would love what he would bring to the clubhouse, right? You got to think with Bregman, this guy has been a winner, right? Ever since, he started playing the game of baseball, right? Went to LSU, big college program there. One of the things about his number, right? Number 2, is a lot of the reasoning behind picking that was because he liked Derek Jeter. But another reason for that is he was not picked number one in the draft. He was picked second overall. So it's a guy that has a chip on his shoulder. Kind of in a way, I've talked about this before too, has a bit of a Pedroia feel to him, all right? Has that vibe about him. A guy that's confident, he likes to compete. You know, this is a guy that wants to win. And that's what I would love about bringing him into the fold. Sure, I can see the argument about not going a long-term deal because you don't want to get stuck into a contract when he's in his late 30s. I get that. I would love to see the Red Sox pony up a good offer, if it was like a 4-year deal with some opt-outs in there. But, when it comes to the Red Sox, I just don't know if they're going to go that extra mile when it comes to spending, especially when you have a guy like Arenado sitting there and he's going to be 3 years on his contract, less money. He's going to give you elite defense at third base. I'm sure he'll give you at least something with the bat, especially at Fenway Park. So that's why I just wonder how far the Red Sox are willing to go there. The Red Sox are at this point where they're very disciplined and they are trying their darndest to not get locked up into a long-term deal, right? You had, Craig come into the fold after, Heim signed Trevor Story, signed Masataka Yoshida, guys that have not really lived up to their contracts as of yet. So I almost feel like the Red Sox right now, they're just trying not to get themselves into another situation of a contract like that. So I think they'd be willing to go 4 years, but I have a hard time imagining that they're going to go past that. The other name or the other teams that have been in the mix for Bregman, the Detroit Tigers. Yeah, I think the Tigers make a lot of sense. I don't think Comerica would be as good of a park for him as, say, Fenway Park or in Houston, but I think he brings a lot to the table there. Obviously, the connection with his old manager. You have an opening at third base. You can give Jace Young some more development time, or maybe move him to another position if something opens up, or maybe you can trade him, whatever it may be. I think Bregman brings a lot to a young team here in Detroit. Again, I don't like the ballpark fit as much as a hitter-friendly park like Fenway, but I do see the benefits there. The Blue Jays have popped up, supposedly, according to Hector Gomez. They got a 6-year offer on the table. I just think if they have a 6-year offer on the table, he would have gone there already, personally. So I'm just going to take that at face value, really. We got the Chicago Cubs, who have been in the mix as of late. Now, the interesting thing with the Cubs, now, funny thing, you want to talk about park factor. Comerica, I don't like the ballpark as much as, say, Fenway Park or Minute Maid, but Chicago, actually for right-handed hitters, you saw Isaac Paredes go to the Cubs last year, and he wasn't really a great fit there, and then they ended up moving him. Obviously, to Houston, where he was a better fit. Right-handed hitters over the last few years have not fared very well in Chicago. So there is a bit of an argument there. But either way, I still think Bregman's a solid bat to add to your order. And another thing with the Chicago Cubs is the payroll. There was a report earlier this offseason that they're being pretty tight on the payroll. Ownership does not want to go over the CBT. They want to stay under it. If you bring in Bregman, and supposedly they have a 4-year deal on the table north of $100 million with opt-outs involved. And the report also with that is that they're trying to get creative with the deal. And if you take a look at the Cubs' payroll right now, they're right around $30 million under the first luxury tax threshold. So that can make sense when you see the report that they're trying to get creative. Could they possibly be trying to front load the deal and maybe the other years that he gets a lower AAV or a lower salary to try and reduce the AAV? I think something like that's possible. But I do wonder about that when it comes to their payroll, because if you bring in Bregman on a higher AAV, say, 30, 32 million, well, you're running very tight at that point. And something reportedly ownership does not want to do. Now, you could bring him in, maybe move Nico Horner in a separate trade. Should be ready for, closer to the beginning of the year. But will a team want to take him on in a trade at that point? You know, that's something to think about. So I think with the Cubs, I do see a good fit there. I just wonder logistically if it's going to be able to work out. So we'll have to wait and see on that. If you're going to ask me right now, you know, I think out of these four teams that we just mentioned, I wonder if the Tigers step up on a short-term deal. You know, there was a report a while back that there was a gap in his value from what they perceived. But I wonder if they end up just coming, to the table and they say, all right, let's do this. Let's increase this offer a little bit. Let's get a deal done. We want you here in Detroit. I could maybe see them doing that. But you know what? At the end of the day, everyone, at the end of the day, I am still not going to count out Bregman going back to the Astros. I'm not going to count it out until he goes elsewhere. They've already said that they would, Jose Altuve would move out to left field if that's what it took. They want this guy back in the fold. I would not be surprised if he took like that Pete Alonso deal that he did with the Mets, a 2-year deal with an option where basically Alonso's going to basically go out to the market again next offseason. I wouldn't be surprised about that personally. Not counting out Houston. I won't count out the Red Sox because, again, the park is a great fit for him, has the Cora connection. If he is willing to do the short-term deal, if he is willing to go 4 years, I won't count the Red Sox out. Sam Kennedy has said that they will go over the CBT if that's what it takes. But if I don't know. I just have a hard time seeing them going crazy with the money. We'll see. I won't count out the Red Sox. Really just to sum up my answer, I think it's anyone's guess with where he goes right now. I think there's a strong argument for the Red Sox, Tigers, Cubs, Astros. I don't know about the Blue Jays at this point. I really do think, I think it comes down to how much this guy ends up getting, right? I'm sure he'll get opt-outs wherever he goes, but that's kind of where I'm at. And moving on to Arenado here, Jeff Passan in his article, he said that was the next part in the article after Bregman. Now, he says here, with the Yankees and Dodgers seen as long shots to make a move for Arenado, the Red Sox remain the landing spot that makes the most sense. Though Arenado used his no-trade clause to block a deal to Houston this winter, he would waive it to end up in Boston, according to sources. I remember we talked about that. I was the first one to report that. I know that's not that big of a deal, but I'm just going to point that out. I was the first one to say that out loud. Just saying. But he goes on to say, the Red Sox have yet to bite, not only because of the consequences of such a move, Devers shifting to a near full-time designated hitter role, but because the Cardinals have not budged enough on the money they're willing to send with the remaining 3 years and $64 million on Arenado's contract. Now, I've seen this situation before when it comes to guys, and their contracts and money. You see these reports where, teams, no, we don't want to pay that much, right? And, the other team, well, no, we want you to pay a little bit more, right? I feel like that, more often than not, I could be wrong. I feel like that tends to work itself. That always gets worked out. So, kind of where I'm at here, seeing the Bregman stuff, kind of, I've also been told that, I'm basically paraphrasing this, but how was this worded to me? I was told that it's pretty up in the air at this point, right? At the little birdie that I spoke to said when he asked someone there in the Boris camp, hey, what's the deal looking like, or when's the deal going to get done? He got an answer basically saying, it's anyone's guess at this point. Who knows? So I feel like that feels just, I don't know what's going on with Bregman, right? But you got to think from the Red Sox point of view. You did this whole Montgomery dance last offseason. Do they really want to do this again? You want someone to come into camp, one of these guys, when spring training is a fully underway, right? When the full squad workouts are underway. You want one of these guys in camp. I don't know, man. I just think the Red Sox, personally, if I were to guess, I think they probably see Arenado as a guy that can give them some pretty decent production with the bat over the next couple of years. And at minimum, they're going to get a great glove. I think they see a guy, and that was another thing Breslow said today. That was another thing that actually caught my attention a little bit. One little word that he said a player they want to bring in they don't want to bring in a guy just to bring in a guy. They want to bring in a guy that is going to give them wins. Pay attention to that. When it comes to wins above replacement, it's not just the bat. It's the defense too. If Arenado came to Boston, stunk up the joint with the bat yet again, you do know he's going to give you some good defense. And this year, when his Fangraph wins above replacement was at a 3. And that was with a down year with the bat. He was still a 3-win player with his glove. He is going to help your team. Whether you think this guy is 65 years old, whatever you can say, he is still going to help your team with the glove in an area where they sorely need to improve. I'm just going to point that out. So that was one thing that caught my attention with Craig today. Was they want to bring in a guy that's going to help them get wins. Arenado, with or without the bat, is going to help you there. Now, I honestly think Arenado, I just think this is probably going to happen. I don't know. I'm kind of reading the tea leaves. Nothing's happening with Bregman. Full squad workouts coming up. You're even, you're seeing accounts out there like Cardinals Live. He's putting stuff out there. I forget the wording on what he said, but, he basically said, stuff is happening. A deal could already be agreed upon, whatever it may be. If you're seeing stuff out there on Twitter land, in Red Sox Twitter land, people are saying stuff. It seems like there's noise picking up. And with the lack of noise on the Bregman front, kind of just makes me think here. And we also got the report, I believe, from John Denton of MLB.com, saying that guys like Blaze Jordan and Nazan Zanatello have come up at a possible deal. You're seeing more right now on Arenado, and with the timing of the full squad workouts coming up, of the full squad reporting, kind of makes me think they just get something done with Arenado, unless something happens with Bregman. I don't know, man. I've also seen people talk about the possibility that maybe you could add something along with Arenado. Remember, go back, what was it, like a month ago? We were seeing kind of these weird reports out there from some random accounts that guys like Tristan Casas were brought up, Ivan Herrera with the Cardinals. I'm going to say this. I don't know anything, but I almost wonder if the Red Sox, they see an opportunity where if they can't figure out the money, maybe they end up taking on more money from the Cardinal or from Arenado's contract. So that way they can get some high value players along with Arenado to make up the difference of his underwater contract. So maybe they can meet in the middle. Maybe, if they can't get the Cardinals to pay as much as they want, maybe they can entice the Cardinals. Be like, all right, fine. If you don't want to pay this much of his contract, well, how about you give us this player along with Arenado? We'll even throw in another prospect or two, maybe a mid-range prospect, to maybe sweeten the pot a little bit for you. But you're going to have to give us this guy too. Maybe someone like Ivan Herrera, right? When you take a look at the Red Sox catching situation in the organization, I know you got Garcia down there, but he's pretty far away. He's not really a guy right now that, that you're counting on to come up anytime soon. If you're looking for major league ready, possible high upside catching within the organization, I wonder if someone like Ivan Herrera could be in a deal when the catchers or when the Cardinals have a bunch of catchers in their organization. I'm not saying that I'm not reporting that. I'm speculating on that. Or, maybe even, maybe some higher level prospects within their system. If the Cardinals' goal is to get rid of the Arenado contract, then maybe that's an avenue they can take. Maybe Ryan Helsley, of the Red Sox, if they do want to add one more guy to the bullpen, Ryan Helsley maybe could be an option. I don't know. I have a feeling the Cardinals would like to move him in a separate deal, especially with what teams have been, paying up for relievers. Go to the Tanner Scott deal with the Padres this past trade deadline. I would imagine the Cardinals would like to hang on to him, and try and get a separate package from another team. But could that be an avenue? Maybe, I kind of wonder if maybe someone like Ivan Herrera, bringing him up one more time, would be more of a possibility there, because they have so many catchers in their organization. Just a thought. Could it just be Arenado coming if it does happen? Yeah, I think that could happen. But maybe we could also see a bunch of other players get in the mix too. We'll see. Also, just want to touch on this here when it came to the bullpen, right? They talked about the bullpen a little bit today. They're basically going to be having a good old competition for this spring. I love it. I love me a good competition for a position. Good old position battle. And speaking of, Kenley Jansen going to the Angels. How about that? But, Brady, what's going on? What did Carabas just tweet? Hold on a second. We gotta see the news. What did Carabas tweet? Oh, I got another. Ooh. I got another little. I can't say this out loud. Oh man. I'll just say this. Just from what I saw just a second ago, maybe that Ivan Herrera thing could could actually maybe be a little something. I'll just say that. I can't say it out loud. I'll put that out there. What did Jared say here? What did Jared say, Brady? What did he say? What do we got? What do we got? You talking about the streets have had a lot to say today? I think that's the tool. I mean, that's what I'm saying. Like, there's noise. When you think, what did Section 10? What did Section 10 say? Hold on, let's take a look-see here. If you're listening to this with me via podcast, we are live here on YouTube, so we're checking everything. Who tweeted what? I don't see anything on here. I don't see any Jared tweets. I don't see any Section 10 tweets. The last one was the streets have had a lot to say. I think that's what you mean. Oh, it was a reply. He said his guess is something that goes down next week. I wouldn't be surprised if something happens by the weekend. I don't know what it is. I get this impression that the Red Sox just want to be ready to go. I just have that feeling, I think they're just ready to get going. I think they just want to have their roster set, and they just want to move. That's the impression that I get personally. They're ready to get to work. Alex Cora saying the theme for this year, they want to get to work. They want to get better, right? We'll see. But I think the Red Sox, they have obvious intentions of competing this year. I don't think they want to do this whole Jordan Montgomery thing again. They got the rest of this week to figure it out. I wouldn't be surprised if we had something by the end of the week or early next week at the minimum. We'll see. But getting here to the closer competition, all right? Kenley Jansen, like I said, going to the Angels. So there is now a good old position battle, right? Breslow said here, we have a number of guys who have pitched at the back end of games. Hendricks and Chapman, of course. Slayton is a guy that I think deserves some consideration. Whitlock is someone who I think can be deployed as a real weapon in his ability to throw multiple innings. And then Alex Cora said he believes in having a guy in that role at the back end of the bullpen. We'll see. Health comes into play. The good thing is we haven't promised any of these guys a role. We haven't told Liam or Chapman that they've got the ninth. They know that. I'm a big believer in that as well. To me, and Papelbon has talked about this too. I'm a big believer in having roles in the bullpen. When guys know their job, like Bill Belichick liked to do, when you knew what you had, what you knew your assignment every single night, maybe something a little different here and there. I think that's always better for the bullpen. I like how. Don't even remind me of the 2003 closer by committee. I never want to do that again. That was a nightmare that will always haunt me. If we actually had a closer in 2003, you're probably going to the World Series that year against the Florida Marlins at the time. But yeah, they went with the bullpen by committee, and that will always haunt me. To me, you got to have a guy for the ninth. I've always been a believer in that. If you're asking me who the guy is going to be on opening day, if you were to ask me right now, I'm going to go with Liam Hendriks. I think this is a guy. Obviously, he's had quite the ride off the field. He's overcome a lot. An absolute warrior off the field, beating cancer. Amazing story. This is a guy that's been busting his butt over the last couple of years here. I think they're going to give him every chance to win that job. I think that is the way they would like to go, but you never know how the cookie crumbles at the end of the day. But I think they're going to give him every shot possible. I don't know. I just have this thing that Chapman is not going to be that guy. I see Chapman as a dude that's going to be a shutdown lefty, in the 7th and 8th innings. That's the way I see it. And then he, gets some save opportunities here and there, depending on the matchups. But Chapman, to me, that guy just scares the crap out of me. I'm cool with him being a setup guy in those situations where you got lefties coming up. I like that. Slayton, I think, is a dark horse. I think he's a guy that absolutely can step up and, take the job. We'll see. I think in my opinion, I think you could see him as the next man up. And then, we'll see how that goes, I keep vouching, I'll still say it. I think David Robertson would be a great add. Will they bring him in? I don't know. But I think he would be a really valuable guy to have, a guy that has closing experience. He can be in a setup role. He can do whatever in the back end of the bullpen. I would still like to add him. I like that flexibility that he provides. We'll see what the way they end up going. Again, if you were to ask me right now which way I think they're going to lean, I think they're going to go Hendriks. You got to see how spring plays out. But if he pitches fine, and at least fine in spring, I think he'll get the job. We'll see at the end of the day. But I think this is the right way to go. I don't think you give any roles to anyone right now. I think, it's up in the air. I think you just got to earn it. I don't think Whitlock is a guy that you throw into that role. Whitlock, I think you put him back into that 2020 run or 2021 role that he had. Stick him in that same exact spot. That guy dominated in that role. I wish they never took him out. I get the argument. I know you want to, try and maximize these guys' values. I get it. It was fine to try it. I was okay with him trying to be a starter. But then when you start having the injuries, and I was even okay with maybe even trying it one more time after that. Because again, you're increasing the workload, trying to manage that. So maybe they thought, okay, let's try it one more time and let's see how he responds. And then he just kept getting injured, right? But even when he was starting, it was still kind of just hit or miss with him, right? He was pretty inconsistent as a starter. So I was okay with trying it in the beginning. But to me, he was so good in that role out of the bullpen. The guy was lights out. That's the way I feel like you should have always stuck with it. He reminded me of Papelbon. Remember Papelbon? They were trying to bring him in, as a starter at first. And this was a guy that said, nah, I need to be a closer. Like, I need to be in that role. Like, he wanted that role. The Red Sox did not want that role for him in the beginning. Because they saw a guy that could, maximize his value as a starter because he had great stuff. But Papelbon made the right choice at the end of the day. That's how I saw Whitlock. So, could he maybe get into the mix at one point? I don't know. I think use Whitlock as that weapon. All right, kind of almost like Andrew Miller, right? Look what Andrew Miller did, for those teams, in the mid 2010s, late 2010s, right? A guy that you can kind of bring in any situation That's how I see Whitlock. He could come in relief, middle relief, set up, close some games. That's the way I want to see Whitlock being used. But that is just me at the end of the day. But everyone, that's all I got here for tonight. I'm going to wrap it up right there. Before I do get out of here, remember, we are having a great promotion with Baseball America right now. If you are live with us here on YouTube, you can see the promo code on the screen along with a QR code that you can just scan and it'll bring you right there. They have a great deal going right now. If you use the code Monster30 at checkout, you get 30% off your first year subscription. I can't speak. First year subscription with Baseball America. I'm telling you, I say this every time we talk about it, but it's a really good subscription. And that's not me just trying to sell a product for a sponsor. I've been a member of Baseball America for over 5 years now, since I've started my main channel. Amazing resource that they have there. And if you're interested in prospects and all of the upcoming players, if you want to look up old scouting reports, you can do that too. Just endless information there on Baseball America. I can't vouch for that enough. So again, use the code Monster30. Gives you 30% off for an entire year subscription. Use that at checkout. The QR code is on the screen. But everyone, I'm going to wrap it up. That is it for tonight. If you are with us here live on YouTube, hit that like button for us. Subscribe if you're new. We're trying to get to 3K by opening day. If you are with us in podcast format, whether that's Spotify, Google, Stitcher, whatever it may be, give us a 5-star review. We're trying to get out there a bit more into the algorithm, and that only helps us out. Go subscribe over to the Foul Territory channel on YouTube. Go follow their podcast. They got a whole bunch of stuff going on over there on Foul Territory. We're in for a fun year, everyone. I'm glad we're starting to see all of the players coming in. I'm glad this offseason, it feels like we're coming to a head here. I'm excited for it. I'm ready to get this offseason over and get into spring training mode. But everyone, I'm going to wrap it up there. Thanks for joining tonight. We love you over here. Have yourself a great night, and I'll talk to you next time.